The Golden State Warriors are less than 3 weeks away from training camp, and right now they only have 9 players under contract. 9. A team that prides itself on being a dynasty, a model of excellence, a franchise of stability, is on the verge of entering the season in complete chaos. And the craziest part, all of it comes down to one 22-year-old forward who has turned into the biggest headache of their offseason. Jonathan Kuminga and the Warriors are locked in a standoff so toxic, so dramatic, that it could destroy their season before the first tip-off. But this isn't just about money. This is about trust. It's about pride. And it's about whether the Warriors even know who they want to be anymore. Because both sides keep saying they want this marriage to work, but their actions scream the exact opposite. Let's start with the money, because that's where the drama always begins. The Warriors put multiple offers on the table for Kuminga, and on paper, they look solid. 2 years, $45 million. 3 years, $75 million. Numbers that might make you think, hey, what's the problem here? But once you read the fine print, it becomes clear why Kuminga and his camp aren't buying in. Every offer the Warriors have made is littered with team options, which is basically the front office saying, we want you around, but only on our terms. And if we change our mind, you're gone. The most recent one, 3 years, $75 million, sounds huge until you realize only 2 years are guaranteed. The third year is a team option. In reality, it's closer to $48 million guaranteed, not 75. Now compare that to what Kuminga's camp is asking for. 3 years, $82 million with a player option. That's not just a demand for more money. That's a demand for control, a demand for respect. The Warriors see him as a tradable asset. Kuminga wants to be treated like a cornerstone, and that's where the stalemate lives. The situation has gotten so bad that Kuminga is seriously considering taking the qualifying offer, a 1-year, $7.9 million deal, just so he can become an unrestricted free agent next summer. That would mean walking away from more than $37 million in guaranteed money. When was the last time you saw a player that desperate to get out? But money is just the surface. This feud goes way deeper. If you want proof of how broken things are, look no further than the infamous Miami meeting. Warriors owner Joe Lacob literally flew across the country for an emergency sit-down with his young forward. That's how urgent this had become. But when Lacob tried to smooth things over by asking Kuminga, "Do you want to be here?" the 22-year-old flipped it on him. "Do you even want me here?" That one line cut straight through the heart of this relationship, because it's exactly what the entire basketball world has been asking. Do the Warriors actually want Jonathan Kuminga, or do they just want the flexibility to trade him whenever it's convenient? ESPN's Tim McMahon dropped a bombshell calling Kuminga miserable in Golden State. He doesn't feel valued, he doesn't feel trusted, and honestly, he has a point. We're talking about a kid who averaged 15 points per game last season on efficient shooting, who has flashed star potential when given minutes. Yet when the playoffs rolled around, Steve Kerr couldn't figure out how to use him. And Kuminga noticed. This isn't just a cold business negotiation anymore, it's personal. But to understand how we got here, we need to rewind. Back in 2021, the Warriors held the 7th pick in the draft. Inside the organization, several coaches had a clear preference. Franz Wagner, a versatile forward out of Michigan who they felt fit the Warriors system perfectly. But Joe Lacob, the billionaire owner with the final say, had fallen in love with the athleticism and potential of Jonathan Kuminga. Lacob pushed hard, and Kuminga became a Warrior. Fast forward to today, and the comparison is painful. Wagner walked into Orlando, got 30 minutes a night, developed freely, and has now signed a 5-year, $224 million extension. He's a starter, a franchise building block, and one of the most consistent young forwards in the league. Kuminga, meanwhile, has been stuck fighting for scraps of playing time behind Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins. He's started just 84 games in his career compared to Wagner's 291. And now, Wagner is earning more than double the annual salary the Warriors are even willing to guarantee Kuminga. Think about how different things could have been if the Warriors had gone with Wagner. Instead, Kuminga was drafted into a championship team where every mistake was punished and every minute had to be earned. That's not a development environment, that's survival. And it shows. The craziest part of this whole saga, teams actually want Jonathan Kuminga. They want him badly. The Sacramento Kings and Phoenix Suns both made aggressive pitches this summer. The Kings offered a package centered around Malik Monk and a future first-round pick, while the Suns dangled Royce O'Neal, picks, and even an $88 million contract with a player option. Both teams told Kuminga he'd be their starting power forward of the future. Both promised him the 30-plus minutes he craved, but Golden State said no. They didn't want Monk, they didn't want O'Neal, they didn't want picks. They wanted to keep Kuminga, but only on their terms. That's the contradiction at the core of this whole mess. The Warriors want to have it both ways. They want Kuminga as insurance for their aging core, but they don't want to commit to him as part of their future, and it's tearing the entire franchise apart. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Steve Kerr. There's no question Kerr is one of the best coaches in the league. 4 championships, a system that revolutionized basketball, and a culture that made Golden State the envy of the NBA. But when it comes to Jonathan Kuminga, Kerr has been part of the problem. Last season was the perfect example. 1 week, Kuminga was completely out of the rotation. The next, he was leading the Warriors in scoring during a playoff series. That's whiplash for any young player, and it's impossible to build rhythm or confidence in that kind of role. When the Warriors traded for Jimmy Butler at the deadline, Kuminga immediately lost his spot again. Kerr's reasoning: limited floor spacing and questionable defense. But even Kerr admitted after the season that they never really gave Kuminga a fair shot with the main core. Think about that. You draft this kid 7th overall, you've had him for 4 years, and only now you're saying, maybe we should actually see what he looks like with Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy. That's insanity, and Kuminga knows it. So where does this all go from here? The deadline for Kuminga to accept the qualifying offer is October 1st. Every report suggests that's where this is headed. And if that happens, it's a nightmare scenario for Golden State. For Kuminga, the qualifying offer is a massive gamble. He's betting on himself to play so well this year that he earns a huge payday in 2026 free agency. But the risk is real. Just ask Nerlens Noel, who once turned down a $70 million deal for the same strategy, only to end up with nothing after injuries derailed his season. For the Warriors, it's even worse. If Kuminga takes the QO, he gains veto power over trades. They can't move him without his approval, and next summer he could walk away for nothing. A 7th overall pick gone for free. Meanwhile, their roster remains incomplete. Veterans like Al Horford are sitting in the waiting room, unable to sign because the Warriors don't know how much space they'll have. Training camp is about to begin in chaos mode, and for a team with aging stars like Steph Curry and Draymond Green, who already practice less than anyone in the league, this is a disaster. At the end of the day, this saga is about way more than Jonathan Kuminga. It's about what the Golden State Warriors have become. This is the same franchise that once built a dynasty through trust and development. They drafted Curry, Clay, and Draymond, nurtured them, and turned them into legends. They were the model of stability, a franchise young players dreamed of joining. Now, they've fumbled the bag with Kuminga from day one. They drafted a player who didn't fit their system. They refused to give him consistent minutes. They dangled him in trade talks every summer. They lowballed him in contract negotiations. And now, they're shocked that he wants out. The message this sends to future draft picks is brutal. Come to Golden State, and we'll bury you behind veterans. We'll treat you like a trade chip. And when it's time to negotiate, we'll try to trap you with team options. That's not how you sustain a dynasty. That's how you lose one. So where does this end? Most likely with Jonathan Kuminga taking the qualifying offer, playing the season with a chip on his shoulder, and leaving next summer for nothing. The Warriors will have wasted a 7th overall pick. Kuminga will have lost out on millions of guaranteed dollars, and the once great dynasty of the Golden State Warriors will look even more fractured. There are no winners here, just a franchise caught between the past and the future, and a young star who no longer believes in the system that drafted him. If you were Jonathan Kuminga, what would you do? Stay and fight for a role on a team that clearly doesn't trust you, or walk away and bet everything on yourself?